Good evening, everyone. Good evening and welcome to today's VodaPay Twitter space. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited to have you here and we're excited for the conversation that we're going to be having. My name is Yamkela Mdaga and I will be hosting and facilitating today's discussion. Today we'll be talking about living a purpose-driven life and we'll be sharing lessons and anecdotes from our VodaPay partners. Today I'm joined by Ruwana Muton. Ruwana is the founder of an e-commerce business selling a broad range of homeware products called iHouseit. You can find the iHouseit store on the VodaPay app amongst other stores as well. And I'm also joined by Katu Mufamadi. Katu is the founder and CEO of Dropper. Dropper is an on-demand logistics service that makes it convenient and safer to transport your parcels, goods and furniture. So both of the individuals joining me here today are entrepreneurs in their own right, and they also have their stores on the VodaPay app. And I'd just like to give them an opportunity to just introduce themselves today and share a little bit about their business. I think let me start with Katu, the CEO and founder of Dropper. Hi, Katu, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, and you?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you so much for making time to join us today and to share some of your lessons. Katu, can I just ask you to quickly just introduce yourself and your business quite briefly, and then maybe just share a little bit about your partnership with VodaPay?
Okay, my name is Katu Mufamadi, founder and CEO of Dropper. Dropper is an on-demand service that makes it easier to transport your parcel goods and furniture. So basically what we do is just cutting the red tape and the middleman. If you just want to get something couriered to anywhere, or you want to move house, or you're a small business, you want to distribute your products to your customers. Our services are available on VodaPay, and people can just access all of this over there. Yeah, in a nutshell, that's what Dropper is. And for myself personally, I'm a computer science graduate from UKZN. I spent 6 or 7 years while I was in corporate South Africa, mainly in the banking industry. And since then, for the past 6 years, I've just been building and running the Dropper platform. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
No, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Katu. And then Rowana. Hi, Rowana. How are you doing today?
Hello, Yamkela. I'm very well, and thank you so much for the invitation to be part of this wonderful VodaPay discussion.
No, that's fantastic, and I mean we're excited to have you, Rwana. So thank you. And similarly to Katu, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your business, iHouseit, and then just share a little bit about iHouseit's partnership with VodaPay?
Great, thank you so much. I'm almost 50, and I left the corporate world about 4 years ago to pursue my dream, and that was e-commerce. It basically came. Since I bought a home, I was very busy working in a corporate space, and I didn't have enough time to purchase products and goods for my house. I was driving over weekends with my children, a little puppy. We went to all sorts of homeware stores and building stores, and I just always bought the wrong stuff. So I always had to go back the next weekend. So for me, it was like it had to be better. For me, it was like the whole of the Cresta shopping center in Johannesburg needed to be on one online store. So for me, it was, I took a view based on a lot of research on where the world is going. So I've been putting business cases together since 2016. I've resigned from my corporate job in 2018 and started the iHouseit e-commerce platform. So basically, iHouseit is a place where you can buy a wide variety of goods for your house, and we value and cherish family time. So for us, it's really the intent is that before you go to the stores and walk around and search for things is that you are able to find it online, order it, and it's delivered at your door.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Ruwana. And as I mentioned before, Dropper is a service that you can find on VodaPay as well, and iHouse is a store that you can find on VodaPay as well, amongst a broad range of other stores and services that you can find on the app. And if you're unfamiliar with VodaPay, just to give a quick and brief overview of what the VodaPay app is. VodaPay is a fairly new super app that launched towards the end of last year, and it's essentially a mall in your pocket. It is available to all networks in South Africa, not just Vodacom customers. On the app, you're able to shop from some of your favorite stores. You're able to buy airtime, data, electricity, water, pay your bills such as TV licenses, DSTV accounts, and more. You're also able to use it to pay in store wherever you see a QR code. So really, it is a mall in your pocket, and you can almost literally have your whole life sorted out with the one app. And just before we jump into our conversation, I'd like to ask everyone here today to please engage with us by tagging at VodaPay and sharing whatever insight or question that you might have for our guest today. So yeah, please feel free to tweet us through the space and share any questions you might have. And yeah, we might just towards the end of the conversation engage with those questions here with Katu and Ruwana. But otherwise, we're so excited to have you here, and I think let's get this conversation started. I think I'll throw my first question to you, Katu. When did your journey into entrepreneurship begin?
My journey actually happened coincidentally. So I think around 2011, my sister had this events business where she was renting out chairs, tables to people who have weddings whatsoever. So they needed delivery, and then I just bought a small truck, just to assist with that, and then I just make sure that she make enough money to pay off the truck. And then ever since then the driver requested me to say no, what can I then park the truck on the side of the road and do this buggy for hire during the week, because that event business was very cyclic. It happens maybe weekends or festive seasons and stuff. Then we entered the buggy for hire kind of concept. I think from there, from 2012, 2013, 2014, we grew, and I think I ended up having 2 trucks and a small buggy. Then around 2014, one of my colleagues in corporate South Africa went to the US, and then he used Uber. Then he came back and he was no, Katu, stop this truck business of yours. Just Uberize it and make it simple for people to have access to deliveries as and when. And then that's when in 2015 I then packed my bags and left corporate South Africa to build Dropper in a nutshell. Yeah.
Sure. No, that's a really great story, Katu, and I'm interested to hear from you again. I'll get to you in a second, Ruwana. At the time when you left your corporate job, just as you mentioned, what gave you the courage to take the plunge? Because a lot of the times there's fear holds us back, particularly with the responsibilities that we have in our lives and not knowing how
Yes.
the venture is going to turn out. So what gave you the courage to take that plunge?
Honestly speaking, I think the courage just came. But at that time, I think it was 7 years ago. I didn't have any responsibilities at that time, so it was far much easier to take the financial risk of losing the luxuries and the nice salaries and stuff to pursue this. That was number one, because finances are very important. Number two, I just think personally, I was just in a pursuit to build something that could be of value, because sometimes in corporate it's not just a job, but I think I was not just challenged enough there. So the courage was also just about to fulfill something inside me, to say let me just build something and let me see if it works. And then 6-7 years later, that's where we are now.
No, absolutely. I really love that, and I'm looking forward for us to actually dive deeper into our conversation and hear, just a bit more about that story. But for now, Ruwana, at the beginning of the space, you gave us a bit of a glimpse into how your entrepreneurship journey began, and I'm interested to hear from you. At the time, what gave you the courage to kind of take the plunge and move into the e-commerce space?
Well, I must say, I think I had way too much courage at the time. But for me, it was really a conviction that the world is changing. We spoke a lot about Moore's Law in 2016, 2017. I think at that stage, big data was quite a big topic. We talked about, I was looking at digital customer experience. Alibaba was fast rising. I purchased some products from Alibaba and it arrived free of charge at our post office. Post office took it was a 4-month journey for the products to arrive. But for me, it was quite a rosy. I had an incredible rosy outlook on e-commerce. I am a Christian. I did pray a lot about it, and it was. I've spent a lot of time asking, wondering, and researching. And when I finally resigned, I was really convicted that I'm doing the right path, the right journey. And for me, I house it, it was really aligned to my calling. I wanted to make a difference, and I believed that people all have something to bring. People have a lot of talent and skills. And for me, it was really something to say, how can we take the continent of Africa and connect it to the global world? So for me, it was if I could import from China a handful of green rosy, then we could export from Africa to the rest of the world. And my dream really is to connect businesses and basically enable these businesses to sell on an aggregated online platform, and that people from around the world can purchase the most beautiful products that are handmade and manufactured and made in Africa, but also likewise to facilitate beautiful imported products to our markets. I wasn't able to do this on my own, and for me, the platform of VodaPay is really that big view of the world. And I'm really just grateful to be part of the VodaPay platform to bring what iHouseit has onto your big world and your big mall. And I felt to join the VodaPay platform is to have an early seat or a seat on the rocket ship. And I really believe that VodaPay is bringing together a whole lot of suppliers and enable them to sell to the public. And VodaPay is also bringing a lot of payment methods and financial services in this. So for me, I'm very excited about the partnership with VodaPay.
No, I really love that, and thank you for sharing that, Ruwana. I love that you used the word calling, and I mean in your particular instance, you also mentioned that faith had a hand in the decision you made. So I'm interested to just hear from you again, Ruwana. Did you feel that a sense of purpose or passion played a major role in the work that you're doing today with iHouseit?
Yes, it certainly did. I feel the calling on my life is financial inclusion, and it's really to be able to help people to be more included in our financial services environment. And people should be able to buy any product for their home according to their income and their means. It should be easy to and accessible. And I feel iHouseit is playing a part in that calling. But that's the more why I'm so excited about the VodaPay platform.
No, absolutely, I absolutely love that. And I mean, even for VodaPay, financial inclusion is a key mission in the work that VodaPay does as well. So thank you for that, Rowana. Katu, I'd actually like to ask you the same question, but just to start with, what does purpose mean to you? And did you feel that a sense of purpose and passion played a major role in where you find yourself today and in the work that you're doing today? Can you please just chat us through that? So, Katu, just in case you're speaking, I just want to let you know that you are muted. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. I'm saying it's going to be tricky after Rwana's explanation, but I'll try. I think on my side, I think for me, purpose is being able to make a difference, and also personally being able to add value to other people, because it all comes down to the fundamentals of what we do in terms of delivery, because if you realize, we use sometimes or most of the times we use the typical guy with a baggy for hire sticker pegged outside of macro, or someone who just wants to do extra income. And the fact that it's weekly, they're able to generate income, and at the same time you're creating employment for them. That is more like what that's more like what I feel that it resonates to the purpose journey. So I think that is what makes me more driven and adding value and changing people's life, and actually in terms of, as an entrepreneur, also making other people entrepreneurs. So it's like this whole ecosystem. It's what's driving me to continue.
No, awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Katu. And then just to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in. To whoever has just joined us. Today we're having a discussion about living a purpose-driven life. And we are chatting to Katu, who's the founder of Dropper, and to Rowana, who's the founder of I House It. Both of these stores are available on the VodaPay app. And I'd just like to remind everyone, please do engage with us by tagging at VodaPay and share any questions you might have for our guests or any insights that you'd like to share. And then just to jump back into our conversation again, Katu, I'd just like to come back to you again. How would you say one can go about living a purpose-driven life? I don't think there's necessarily one way to answer this, but just, how would you answer this in terms of how live a purpose-driven life?
So that's a very tricky question, but I think it also to me it comes to the fact that is waking up every day and doing things that makes you happy, and at the same time looking back at the end of the day and seeing the value that you are creating, and if that also makes you being fulfilled, I think that is what purpose is. A purpose-driven life is, because I think one can live and acquire a lot of things through different avenue, but if they don't look back and see the value in it, I don't think there's purpose on continuing there. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's how I see it, is in mainly adding value to my life by seeing other people flourish through what I have created. And yeah.
Oh no, awesome. No, thank you. Thank you for that, Katu. I think what I love about both of your stories is that there's a strong sense of community and a strong sense of wanting to improve other people's lives right at the core of the work that you do, and at the core of the mission of your businesses. And I think that's really awesome. And I think you've both mentioned that you've left corporate jobs to move into the entrepreneurship space, and I think perhaps this is a discussion that's constantly ongoing, but I'd like to find out from the both of you. But I'll start with you, Rwana. Does one always have to kind of immediately leave their job to pursue what they believe is their passion or purpose, or would you advise against, leaving your job too soon? Can you just share some thoughts that you have on that with me?
Thank you, Yamkela. My advice in hindsight is to rather start your entrepreneurial journey on the sideline while you are still holding up your corporate job, to provide for you and your family, and then slowly but surely nurture your business on the side, and be on the lookout for funding. And if you are able to bootstrap, do that. If you're able to obtain a loan with good terms, do that. Or even if you are able to find an equity partner, also do that. But my lesson is I left the corporate world in 2018, and I couldn't find funding in time. So I had a very how can I say, a very hard financial road with my journey and setting up my company. And I don't want to change it because I've learned so much and I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. But I think, if you have a family that you need to sustain and that you need to look after yourself financially, that would be the reason why I'm saying keep at your corporate job until your side hustle is profitable and you can then resign to pursue that dream.
Okay, awesome. No, thank you for sharing that, Rwana. And I think I'd like to go a bit deeper into your story in about a second. But Katu, I'd like to ask you, what would be your take on this particular topic?
I think at first I'll just agree with Rwana in terms of if you have commitments and responsibilities, rather keep your corporate job while you do it as a side hustle. And then just to add on that is that while most of the people I've interacted with is that sometimes the corporate job also becomes too comfortable, and the pursuit of entrepreneurship or building what you like then lags or sometimes even dies because you can't balance. But it's just the thing. The thing is that it's not easy to get funding. I think over the past years I've done a lot of funding, but it hasn't been easy. And also I took the leap without anything because at that time in my life I had no responsibility and no financial backing, just a couple of savings, but I could risk it all there because I didn't really have any responsibilities on my doorstep, so that I can do. Compared to now, if I was in corporate, it would be very challenging to pursue what I did some time ago. So I think it's just that whole thing whereby it depends on the circumstance, but also the journey. And it has been, when you look back, it's a wow thing, from nothing to where you are. It's just something. It's just that feeling that is very, very a different and very fulfilling. And in the same time, in terms of this funding thing, is that sometimes you don't need funding in order to do a business. Some businesses you can kick them off and they can run immediately, and then you might be able to quit your corporate job quicker than the journey of, let's just say, the IT startup or the e-commerce space, where to gain traction, revenue, good numbers, to attract investors can take longer. In average, to close your first round of funding in this environment can take you at least 12 to 24 months or even longer. So those are the kind of things that one should be aware of. But if one is considering leaving corporate South Africa, they just need to understand that they will have to immediately cut some luxuries and be irrespective of how X amount they have or how X amount funding or investment they have. One thing that I can advise anyone is that if you want to really leave corporate South Africa to pursue entrepreneurship, first thing we'll have to really cut your lifestyle expenses and cut some luxuries immediately and not wait for day zero, which can take you 8 or a year later. So yeah, so that's where I that's my view on that.
No, I really love that, and thank you for sharing that insight, Katu. And Rowana, just to pick up on your previous answer, when you first left corporate to start your business, what were some of the things you wish you had done differently in that transitionary period specifically?
For me, it's really, I think in hindsight, I should have really cut exponentially on my financial, spend in a month. But I was very confident that I will be able to obtain funding. So I think in hindsight, I should have sold my house immediately and moved to a very, a smaller place, to be able to have a longer runway to build the business. But that it didn't happen that way. And yeah, so that's why I'm really saying do not just jump off a big ship or just, how can I say, just be too confident in terms of how the future will look like. First, make sure that the business that you are nurturing is growing and that it is becoming profitable.
Okay, no, awesome. No, thank you so much for sharing that, Rowana. And we spoke a bit about finances right now, and we spoke a bit about funding. I'm curious to know, and I think perhaps let me start with you, Katu. At what point do you think that one should consider taking out a business loan, whether it's to start a business or to grow an already existing one? At what point should one consider moving in this direction?
In my view, I think it's not one size fits all answer, because there's also the criteria for banks and other financial institutions for them to be able to even offer that loan. So it also varies in terms of the kind of business you are in or the kind of products that you are selling. So a business loan, it's normally, I'll advise for someone to get it once they've got recurring income and recurring traction, in order for them to be able to service it. Because it's, let's just say, for example, let's just say, yes, you get the loan, but if you don't have recurring revenue, next thing you're going to default on that loan, which is going to do a bad credit profile for you and for your business. But once you have proper revenues and proper financial models and everything up and running, not just still on a deck or on the plan, that's when you can commit to something like a business loan. So that's my advice there. But also out there, there's quite a lot of other finance, I'll call them instrument, that one can access instead of a loan, in order to mitigate the funding need at that point. Yeah.
Okay, no, awesome. Thank you so much for that insight, Katu. And Ron, I'd like to throw the question to you. In your view, at what point should one consider taking out a business loan?
I think it's very healthy to have a loan, but you have to make sure that you are able to service the loan, and it's part of your operations. You're leveraging and you're gearing. You don't give away equity in your company, and you are able to pay back the money that you've borrowed. And just make sure that you are putting that money to to invest and grow your business and take the additional loan funding that you have and implement it in the right way. But I'm a full supporter of that.
No, awesome. Thank you so much for these incredible insights to the both of you, Rowana and Katu. I think it's also worthwhile to mention that if you are on the space and you are a business owner and you're looking for some kind of funding for your business, VodaPay has a range of great funding options, depending on the size of your business and what you need to make it grow. So you can apply for this directly on the VodaPay app, and yeah, see where that takes you. But I just thought that would be worthwhile to mention. But just a reminder, we've just hit our halfway mark for our Twitter space today. It's going by very quickly, but I'd just like to remind everyone to please do engage with us by tagging at VodaPay and sharing any questions you might have for our guests today, or any insights that you'd like to share on the topic that we are speaking about. And yeah, just to continue on, Katu, I'd like to ask you. I know we might have touched a bit on this earlier on, but what was some of the biggest challenges you encountered in terms of the practical steps you needed to take to set up your business?
I think from my side, the challenges have been that I'm a technical person, so I never really had exposure to the other side, like finance, marketing, and all the other things that are non-technical. Also things like operations. So there's been a lot of, I think, challenges or a bit of failures that I did experience throughout the journey because of lack of knowledge on those other things. So it's not just, I'm saying that you need to be one size fit all. Yes, the failures had been a great learning curves, but if I had invested more on not just building the product and also stretching my thinking and my investment into like finance, marketing, PR, and operations, things will have been more smoother than how they have been so far.
Sure. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Katu. And I'd actually like to ask you the same question, Rowana. What were some of the challenges you encountered in terms of the practical steps you needed to take to set your business up?
I must say it's challenges and a lot of hiccups, but it was a lot of fun. So on our side, we've started out to build our own platform, and we went on the Amazon Web Services and hosted our own platform. So a lot of challenges was dealing with technical teams building the platform. We've basically outsourced to people outside of South Africa. Lots and lots of time spent with that, which was great. And we were able to build quite a nice dual-sided marketplace. My biggest challenge personally was when it was built and when we've added our products and everything was working, payments, etc., is to get people to know about iHouseit and to understand who we are, what the brand is, what we offer, and for people to trust us enough to click and buy and to know that the products will be delivered to them. So in terms of marketing, brand awareness, advertising, I would say for me that was the biggest learning curve. I've spent so many hours later reading up, listening, phoning people, asking, testing, going for courses, etc. And I must say, I am a very big supporter of the VodaPay platform, is that we are able to exponentially build or grow iHouseit's brand awareness through the VodaPay platform. So I think within the first 2 or 3 months of the VodaPay app, they already had 1 million downloads on mobile devices, and there's a huge marketing budget behind the VodaPay platform and the VodaPay multi-tenant app. And we are benefiting from that. So for me, it's our biggest challenge is marketing, and a lot of that is solved by the VodaPay app.
Oh no, thank you so much for sharing that, Rowana. I think that's really valuable insight. And I'd actually, just to move on to our next question here, I'd like to ask you, Katu, what is the best money advice you've ever received, whether it's personal money advice or money advice related to your entrepreneurship journey or business?
I think the best money advice is that invest on assets or things that grow instead of just investing on just consumables. Things that you just consume and then that's it. As much as you still need them in order for you to be happy or stuff, but always invest on things that will be able to grow, or you'll be able to look at after a while and they still be there as an asset or something that adds value in your life.
No, that's great. That's really great advice. Thank you for that, Katu. And Rowana, I'd like to ask you as well, what's the best money advice you've received, either for yourself personally or with regards to your business?
Thanks for that answer, or for that question. For me, it's definitely to wisely spend your money, and to definitely think 100 times before you before you place it anywhere. Invest it in growth assets. I do agree with Katu. And the other thing is to also to make sure that you are able to support yourself before you out there in the entrepreneurship world trying to save the world.
Oh no, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that, Rowana. And we've got just under 25 minutes left of our space. And I'd just like to let everyone know in the space, if you're keen to become a speaker and ask a question or share a comment, please send through your requests. And towards the end of the conversation, we'll get to those and you'll get to ask your question directly to one of our speakers. About either their business or their entrepreneurship journey. But otherwise, if you're not so keen to ask a question, please remember to engage with us by tagging us at VodaPay and tweeting through any question you might have or insight for the topic that we are discussing today. And I'd like to ask my next question to you, Katu. What advice would you share with someone who feels like they haven't necessarily discovered what their purpose or passion is, but are really keen to kind of tap into that part of themselves or tap into that space?
Sure, that's a tricky one. I think one thing is also you need to give yourself time. I mean, some people were lucky they were able to get their purpose or passion when they were still in their teens, some in their 20s, some in their 30s, 40s, 50s. At some point in one's life, and in whatever you invest in, there will come a time where you will be able to find your purpose. So one thing is that don't put yourself under pressure in terms of getting it quickly. So give yourself time, invest in yourself, study, read on things that you are passionate or interested in. Also, I think right now we live in a world where there's quite a lot of information. I mean, there's Google, there's YouTube, and there's all of these places where you can get information, and also you can also follow people who are in your space or maybe in the space that you want to pursue in. So my advice is give yourself time, but at the same time you need to be investing yourself and your money and everything into your things you're passionate about. Yeah.
No, awesome. And I think that's a really, really big one. Thank you for sharing that insight. to invest in yourself is really a big part of moving towards that direction. Thank you for that, Katu. Rwana, can you please let us know what advice you would share with someone who feels like they haven't necessarily discovered what their purpose or passion is, but are really keen to?
Yes, so for me, it would really be to be still and quiet, and to to spend time alone, to know who you are, and to dream, and to really get a download of who you are, understand yourself, and to know what your passion is, to where you add value and make a difference in life. So if your mind and heart and hands are aligned, that is where that passion and purpose gets alive. And I would definitely really want to advise that if you have an inkling of where it is, to plan ahead, do your research, write up a business case, see if you can get funding and test it out. And I think it's not all fun and joy and excitement. There is a lot of difficulties with going on the path that you choose to go, but I'm sure that you'll have a lot of strength and guidance with that. And also surround yourself with a community and with your loved ones who understand why you do it, explain it to them, and be vulnerable enough to share whilst you are on your journey.
No, awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Rowana. And, the both of you have shared that you've had, some kind of experience with either looking for funding, getting funding, struggling to get funding. And we have someone on Twitter, someone on Twitter who's reached out struggling with funding. And, he says that it's hard currently, struggling with monthly expenses, membership, certificates, websites and development, etc. And just on his behalf, I'd like to ask you guys, either Katu or Luana, who may answer, what would your advice be to them in terms of trying to source and secure funding for their business?
I'm just reading his question here. So I think the funding also depends on at what stage is your product or business is, and sometimes as entrepreneurs they get frustrated with not getting funding, but mainly because they're just applying for funding at the wrong places or at places where their mandate doesn't cover their line of work. So from what I see from the question from the is Spa, I think we might have to understand where he is in terms of his business, but in terms of web products, there are institutions like which I have interacted with in the past. Innovation Hub. There is MLab, which is also part of there. There is Soft Start, BTI, which is under CEDA. There's Silicon Cape, which is in Cape Town. There's just and there's something called Tshwelopele somewhere in Joburg, Braamfontein. So I'm just saying, if he's still at early stages, which I think is what I'm getting from there, he can approach those institutions. But also, big corporates also have ESD or voucher or what subsidy programs like Amazon have packages where they can give him some other stuff for free. I know that Microsoft also has other packages, so it's just a matter of investing and doing more research on this on the ecosystem. So if it's quite early stage and this product not there, I think these are the kind of places that he needs to be looking at. And then as he goes to product or market validation, once he got traction, there's also funding institution which they are like called accelerator programs. So you can just go to Google and just Google accelerator programs, which should be able to accelerate and launch his products. And then after that, once he's got revenue, there are quite a lot of venture capitals at small scale, and there are also other government institutions who normally. So basically, what I'm trying to get to is that in order for you to get physical funding for money in your bank account, you need your product or whatever services need to be generating revenue of some sort in order for you to get there. So yeah, so that is my question. I'm not sure if it's clear, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking with the information and the question at hand.
Oh no, thank you so much for sharing that, Katu. I think that's really fantastic. And for anyone who perhaps couldn't reach for their pen quick enough, you can definitely listen to our space just after we're done. The recording will be up on our page, and yeah, you can find all that information that Katu just mentioned there. But thank you so much for that, Katu. And then we've got just under 15 minutes left of our space. I'd just like to remind everyone here that if you are keen to ask a question or share an insight or comment with our guests, you're more than welcome to request to speak, and we'll take some questions towards the end of our Twitter space today. But otherwise, Ruwana, I'd like to ask you, what would you say have been, let's say, your top two biggest lessons throughout your entrepreneurial journey that you think could be valuable to anyone listening here today?
Thank you. For me, it is definitely to keep what you do as small as possible and to learn fast and fail fast. I think that's something that the startup world is really talking about. But try small and do a lot of iterations, building your product, making it bigger, and every single time try and get closer to revenue with that. And then I think for me the biggest lesson is how much marketing is a success factor in our world of e-commerce, and you have to be very clever about it. There's a lot of ways, but ultimately you also need a marketing budget, and really make sure that you have enough funding for the big resource of marketing to make sure that your business is known and that brand is recognized and trusted.
No, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Ruwana. Katu, I'd like to ask you the same question as well. Just to recap on what that question was, is, what have been your top two biggest lessons that you've learned throughout your entrepreneurial journey that you think could be valuable for someone listening today?
Okay, I think I'll just have to be emphasizing more on what Ruwana have already mentioned. But one thing that has been the biggest lesson was bad feedback or bad review or any feedback that you receive. The first thing that you have to do not try to defend it. That whole old traditional or old way of thinking that the customer is always right is very important. Always receive bad feedback as like a to-do point to fix whatever, especially if it's that negative, to try to fix whatever is incorrect or whatever the feedback is saying, and work on it. Number two, I think on the same point, also have a very teachable spirit and get advices from people, or just spaces like this to be able to move forward. I think that the second lesson for me, and I'll go back to something that I mentioned before, was financial literacy. I mean, the world of business is all about numbers. I mean, running a business, you need to understand and comprehend the financial world. Having to learn about income statement, balance sheet, accounts receivable, payables, debtors, creditors, all of those things. So even if you're not in the finance space, I think one of the things that I had to invest in if they want to be in the business world is to learn finance. Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that after I've learned it, it really added value in my journey.
No, that's fantastic, and I think both of you bring up really, really important points, which could actually be really great even for another discussion on another day. I think those points can really live on their own in a conversation like this. So thank you so much for sharing those insights. For feeling very privileged today. It's not every day that you get to engage and go into the mind of an entrepreneur right here in South Africa. And thank you so much for joining us today. And just as we head towards closing off the space, I'm interested to hear from you. I think I'll start with you, Rowana, with your store, I House It. What are you hoping for the future of your partnership with VodaPay?
I really want to be there all the way with VodaPay to the day when they have more than 40 million downloads, and really fulfill a little part of within a big ecosystem and be a part of the puzzle. But for me, it is really just awesome to know that VodaPay has such a grand vision and that they are bringing financial services to businesses. With I House It, we are able to slowly but surely build a profile as a VodaPay merchant. And, once you have 3 months of data with VodaPay, you can start to apply for funding. And it's just awesome to know that you have that you are part within that ecosystem and that community, plus a giant in marketing ability. So we are privileged and very grateful and thankful to be on the VodaPay mini app.
No, that's fantastic, and I think they're also looking forward to really growing with you. So it is still about to be a very, very exciting time. You mentioned earlier that VodaPay has over 2 million downloads in having launched in October last year. So there's still quite a powerful and impactful journey that they'll be going on with you and all its other merchants. So thank you so much for sharing that, Ruwana. And Katu, I'd like to hear from you. What are you hoping for the future of your partnership with VodaPay and your company, Dropper?
I think on my side, I think the way we see VodaPay is another access to market and another revenue line in terms of the overall strategy. Given the fact that VodaPay is part of Vodacom, there's millions and millions of users and other opportunities that we foresee in that space. So we're really looking forward to work with VodaPay, but mainly is to tap onto their customer base, their user base, in order to be able to offer our services to those customers and users. As we know that Vodacom probably has more than 100 million users or whatsoever in their platform. So we're really looking forward to tapping into those customers of Vodacom and accessing new markets as they are all over Africa.
No, thank you so much for that, Katu. And just as we wrap up today's conversation, I'd just like to thank you guys for sharing your insights and for making time. I think this is a particularly important discussion, especially in our current climate. As the gig economy grows and as the entrepreneurship landscape expands in South Africa, conversations like this are very important, especially for people right at the beginning of their journeys. So thank you so much for putting yourself forward and for making time to speak to us today. And I think, yeah, just as a reminder to anyone who joined us in the middle of our session, VodaPay is a super app that's essentially a mole in your pocket, and it's available to all networks in South Africa, not just Vodacom customers. So yeah, download the app and link your card, and you'll see a whole new world of really amazing experiences and stores and services and things that you can pay for and do on the app. But otherwise, Katu, I'd like to say thank you so much for your time today. Much appreciated. And Rwana, thank you too for your time today. Your insights have been really valuable, I know, for me personally, and I would hope and for everyone that joined us as a guest today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And just on that note, we'll be closing our space. Thank you to everyone that joined us today. So please be on the lookout for our next Twitter space, which will be happening in June under the theme of Young and Rising. That's going to be a very interesting topic that I think will have a lot of value, particularly for young people as we are moving into Youth Month. But otherwise, thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you do want to listen back over to this interview, you can just go on our profile. We will save the recording. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us.